Good morning, good people, whoever come in. This is Taylor Schabusiness. Good morning, good people. Oh, sentencing hearing. Sorry, gotta turn on my phone. No echo. And she did some nasty, nasty stuff to her lover. So there's a trigger warning here. And let me see what's going on here. Hold on. Why is this muted? Here we go. Can you guys hear it? Can you guys hear it? This is weird. Hold on. Huh. I know it's not me. Hold on, you guys. So there's a lot I'm going to do today. If anybody cares and whoever watches the replay, Missouri. There's always something going on there. So I'm going to be covering like 3 things today about Missouri. I wasn't going to, because usually I do it on Mondays, but some things happen out there, so I'm going to be covering it. All right. What the hell is going on here? Maybe they don't have the volume on purpose. But what has she got on her face? I'm going to go to Court TV on my phone to see if I got sound there. Hold on. Yes, hold on. Well, hello everybody. How you doing? So I'm looking on see why Court TV, or if it's muted, why it's muted. And thank you for being here. How are you? How you doing? Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Marissa. Thank you, Lydia. So much for being here. And I just want you to know that I'm streaming on 2 YouTube channels. It's muted on TV too. Oh, thank you so much. What is going on with her face? What is she up to? Okay. Thank you for telling me that. Oh God, I could tell you something about her too. You guys came from Facebook. That's so cool. And I just want you to know, if other people like from YouTube come in here, you won't be able to see their comments. Here we go.
Okay, I'll call 20 CF 998, 20 CF 1393, 22 CF 363. State appears by Assistant District or Deputy District Attorney Caleb Saunders. The defendant is here in person and with Attorney Freilich. We're on the court's calendar for sentencing hearing today, as well as sentencing on revocation on those earlier files. Is the state ready to proceed, Mr. Saunders?
I'm sorry, Judge.
Is the state ready to proceed?
We are.
Mr. Freilich?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a copy of the pre-sentence investigation report that was ordered by the court. I have a copy of the independent pre-sentence investigation report that Mr. Freilich had submitted. I've had an opportunity to read both. I've also got some submittals that were submitted by Mr. Freilich. So
She's here from Ohio with my client's great aunt, Roberta, but only Valerie Armour would provide testimony. And then I have my client's father brought here from the prison system via writ of habeas corpus to provide some testimony, and his name is Arturo Coronado.
my thought is, as long as we have witnesses, we should probably take the witnesses first rather than, once the witnesses have all testified, then we can receive argument from counsel. Any objection to that, Mr. Saunders?
No.
Mr. Freilich?
No, Your Honor.
Right, that would mean, although we typically start with the state, that would mean we would turn to you, Mr. Freilich, because you're the only one with the witnesses. So if you want to call your first witness, you can do so.
Okay, before I do that, Your Honor, if I may, I did receive the independent pre-sentence investigation report. It's lengthy, contains an attached alcohol and other drug assessment. I reviewed that entire document, the evaluation and the report with my client last evening at the Brown County Jail. We had a lengthy conversation again to talk about this case. And with that said, I would call Esther Coronado, my client's grandmother.
Okay. Is she coming in on the Galaxy Tab E?
I believe yes.
Okay, so I'm seeing that on my laptop, but I'm not seeing it on the screen.
What is she up to?
So
She's laughing. You guys know that, right?
Are you Miss Coronado?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place you under oath, and then Mr. Freilich is going to have some questions for you, and the prosecutor may or may not have some questions. But I'm going to start by asking you to raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Very good. Mr. Freilich, the witness is yours.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. Ma'am, you are Esther Coronado.
Yes.
And what is your date of birth?
January 1st, 1942.
Okay. And are you married?
Yes.
Are you married to Juan Coronado?
Yes.
Okay. And where do you live, ma'am?
Temple, Texas.
And do you know Taylor Denise Schabusiness?
Yes.
Can you see her
She's
in,
my granddaughter.
what's that?
She's my granddaughter.
Okay. Can you see her here in court?
Yes, I do.
You've known her all of your life, correct?
Yes.
What is her father's name?
My father's name?
No,
Fidel.
no, Taylor's father. What's his name?
Oh, Arturo Coronado.
Okay, that's your son, correct?
Yes.
When Taylor was growing up as a young girl, did she live with you in Temple, Texas?
No, no. When she was growing up, we were in Illinois, and that's where, you know, I took care of her.
You would take care of her when you lived in Illinois?
Yes,
Did you help care for her after she was born?
yes,
Did there come a time when you moved to the state of Texas?
yes. It was in 20, 2004.
2004?
Yes,
And is that when you moved to the Temple, Texas area?
and no, we moved back home. Yeah, that's in Singapore.
Did you ever live in Cotulla, Texas?
Yes,
um, Kind of fast forwarding, when your granddaughter, Taylor Schabusiness, got a little older, did there come a point in time where she gave birth to a baby?
yes,
And what's the baby's name?
Mateo.
And where's Mateo right now?
He's with me.
He-
in Kempton.
The child lives with you in Texas?
Yes,
So you're caring for Taylor's child, correct?
correct.
How old is the child?
He'll be 2 in October 3rd.
Um, was there a point in time where your granddaughter, Taylor Schabusiness, went into some kind of therapy or counseling or treatment program and then got released and then came to live with you before the baby was born?
I believe so.
Okay.
I
And
do not know about what happened in Wisconsin. I only know that she wanted to have the baby with in Texas with me because I was the only family close to her.
okay. And so she had the baby in Texas, correct?
Correct.
Was that in like October of 2021?
Yes.
And when the baby was born, tell me a little bit about Taylor Schabusiness. Was she interacting with the baby? How did that go? Can you tell me about that?
Yes. Well, she was excited when she found out that about the baby. I know that when she came down, she wanted to be close to somebody, a relative, and so when she had the baby, she was very happy and loved that baby, but it didn't last very long because 24 hours later, CPS came and took the baby away.
When you
So
say
they,
CPS, you mean Child Protective Services?
yes,
Okay, please continue. We're going to say some more.
yes, I was going to say that after that, well, it was very hard for her. And they had told her that, well, I was there with her when they came and took the baby away, but they said I couldn't bring him home because she was here at home. But she said she would rather go to a shelter so I could bring the baby home. But that didn't happen. She left from the hospital, went to a shelter, but the baby didn't come home to me until a month later.
Okay, so at the current time, at the present time, you have the baby with you, correct?
Correct,
And you and your husband Juan are caring for the baby, correct?
correct.
Um, you sent me some photographs of Taylor Schabusiness, your granddaughter, with the baby after the child was born, correct?
Correct.
You sent me some pictures of her rocking the baby, kissing the baby's head, interacting with the baby, snuggling with the baby. Is that fair?
Yes, those pictures of her in the rocker, and that's when they would allow her to go to, he was placed with another family before he came to me, and they would allow her to visit with him um, with the permission of the court, and the people that were caring for that baby at that time would bring him over, and she would only have a few minutes, an hour maybe with the baby, and that's she would spend with him.
Okay. Um, After the baby was born or prior to the baby being born, did your granddaughter Taylor go out and buy clothes for the baby, onesies, outfits, things of that sort?
Yes, she did. She did. We had everything prepared for the baby here at home, and her grandparents, her grandfather and aunt sent her a crib. We had the clothes, everything, waiting for the baby after she was released from the hospital. But she did not come home because CPS would not allow it. We couldn't bring the baby home either. He was placed uh, with another couple, and they told her she had to uh, have to live someplace else. So she went to a shelter, and she was there at a shelter. Uh, so I would be able to bring the baby home with me.
Okay.
So she never came home with me after the baby was born. From the hospital, the next day, she went to a shelter, but we did not bring the baby home because they had placed him with another family.
Okay.
So
But
we had.
but right now the baby is with you, correct?
Right now the baby is with me.
And the plan is likely that you're going to have permanent custody or placement of the child with you and your husband, right?
Well, we're adopting him.
Okay.
We're adopting. Taylor gave up her rights so that I could have Mateo, because we didn't want him going to anybody else, but to stay in the family.
Sure. Okay. From your observations of Taylor Schabusiness with the baby, did it appear that she was, connected with the baby, or can you give me any feedback on that?
Yes, she was. She loved her baby. She prepared the things for the baby. Well, because she thought he was going to be coming home. She was setting up things for him, but he never got to come home, and she didn't get to come home either, because right from the hospital, she went to a shelter, and we came home, but we didn't bring the baby with us. He didn't come home to us till about a month later.
Okay. Um, some other questions for you. Do you have a close connection with Taylor Schabusiness, you and your husband Juan?
Yes,
I think you sent some pictures of you and your husband Juan with Taylor Schabusiness in the middle. Is that right?
correct. Yes,
You both love each other very much. Is that fair?
yes. We went to
Okay, this is weird. I'm going elsewhere. Oh,
Queen, it's a small town. There's not that much work there, so she would work at different places.
Okay. Um, do you know if she was on any kind of medication at all when she lived with you in Texas before she graduated high school?
I I believe so, but I really don't know what kind of medication she was on.
You talked to some probation agents or professional people from the Wisconsin Department of Corrections when the pre-sentence report was prepared, correct?
Mm,
You were interviewed?
I don't, oh, now
Yeah.
or when?
When this report was done, did you get interviewed by someone from the Department of Corrections?
No.
Okay.
I got interviewed by three persons that said they will work with you, but I don't know uh, if that was true or not. I don't. But I was interviewed by three uh, someone that said they worked for you.
Okay. Um, your your son is Arturo Coronado, and when he got divorced, did that have an impact on your granddaughter Taylor?
Uh, well, when he got divorced, my granddaughter has been on her own for a while.
Okay.
So
When Taylor's mother passed away in 2009, did that have an impact on Taylor?
yes, it did because she had just lost her mother, and a year later, her father remarried, and the person he married had children of her own. So she was kind of uh, I would say didn't didn't feel well. She felt like she lost her mother, and now she was losing her dad because there were other kids involved in there.
Your son got married to a lady named Katie after Marla passed away, correct?
Katie,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And did Taylor ever talk to you about the fact that she didn't get along with her stepmom?
Taylor always kept everything to herself. She never uh, said things about people. I know that she didn't feel comfortable. She felt like uh, it was too soon after her mother passed away, and her father remarried, and and she felt like abandoned. And then here she was in a home where there was three children, but one of them I know that lives with the father, but two of them were living there, and her and her brother uh, lived in the basement, and and so she just from a nice home that she had, then she ended up living in the basement. But like I said, she never complained to me or said anything. But I went to visit him, and I could see that she felt misplaced. But now other siblings.
Okay. You're aware of the the criminal charges and the convictions that resulted after the trial in this case, correct?
Uh, yes, I think so. I don't know too much about it, but yes, I know that uh, the they found her guilty and they want her uh, to spend her life in jail, and I think that she has gone through a lot in her short time of being here. She has gone through a lot. There's a lot of things that she has to uh, losing her mother, her father remarried, then her find herself pregnant and losing her son, and then losing her brother. So that's a lot for a young person to take in.
And ma'am, your granddaughter, Taylor Denise Schabusiness, she's, we agree, 25 years old.
Yes,
Um, she had a brother, Arturo J. Coronado, AJ Coronado, correct?
correct,
And is it your understanding that he passed away or he died in a motorcycle accident on or about July 1st of 2022?
correct. Yes, right.
Did your granddaughter Taylor talk to you about that after it happened?
No, when I know she was very heartbroken, but she she was there in Wisconsin. She had lost her baby. She was locked up, and her brother, and that was very hard for her.
You sent me some pictures of Taylor with her brother AJ, correct?
Yes,
There's a picture of the two of them together with AJ having his hat on backwards. They appear to be happy. Is that fair?
yes, that's correct.
There was another picture where AJ, Taylor, and your son Arturo were all together as well, correct?
Correct.
Did they all get together with you in Illinois or was that in Texas? Those pictures, where were they from? Were they from Texas or?
No, those were pictures when they lived there in Wisconsin.
Okay.
The ones that I mean, the ones with the baby uh, were here in Texas, but the ones with her brother and her father, that's when they were living there in Wisconsin.
Um, are you a close-knit family? Or have you been a close-knit family in the past?
Yes, we've always been very close. I I, I took care of Taylor when she was born, but then we left for Texas, and so when I left her, she was, I would say, maybe about 7 years old or 8 years old, and I would try and see him uh, at least once a year. But then, as the years passed, we weren't able to travel that much, so I hadn't seen her for a while.
Do you know if your daughter visited other family members in Ohio with in the past with AJ?
I I believe so. When they were young, their mother used to drive to Ohio and take them, but I do not know if later on, as they got older, if they did or not.
Do you know if Marla Coronado would take the kids, AJ and Taylor, to Ohio to visit cousins or aunts?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
She would take them,
And
to visit her dad and her brother and sister in Ohio.
Your granddaughter Taylor, is she close with your husband Juan, with Grandpa?
Yes, she is. Is very close with her grandfather.
When Taylor was living with you in Illinois, and then later on in Texas when she was going to high school at Cotulla High School, did she listen to you and follow the rules and all of that?
But she did listen to me and follow some rules, but sometimes she wouldn't. She wouldn't. I mean, she wanted to do something, but like I said, she wanted to go stay by friend's house, but I would say no, Dad, let him come and stay here with you. So uh, she did bring a friend of hers to stay overnight by us. Like I said, um, Taylor only lived with me there in Texas for maybe about a year and a half until she graduated from high school.
And that,
Then she wanted to get back to Green Bay.
okay. Fair to say that you've always had a close relationship with Taylor, both you and your husband?
Yes, we have. Yes.
Um, you heard about and found out about her involvement with drugs, correct?
Yes. Yes,
Um,
I did. I found out later on because she used to call me, and then for a while she didn't get uh she wasn't calling it anymore. But I try and always try to keep in touch with her. But uh, then afterwards, I found out that she was pregnant, and she asked if she could come down and have the baby over here by me, and I said that that would be fine because she didn't have anybody else that she could turn to over there. So she wanted to be by me, so I told her to go ahead and come down.
okay. Now, she's been found guilty by a jury of first-degree intentional homicide, felony, mutilation of a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault, all felony offenses, all as repeaters. For the first-degree intentional homicide conviction, the Wisconsin law is such that the sentence is life in prison, life imprisonment. And the issue really is whether she should be given the opportunity for extended supervision or possibility of parole or not. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you have any input on that issue?
Well, I do. I believe that she has gone in her short life. She has gone through a lot, and like I said, first losing her mother at the age of 12, then a year later her father uh, remarried, and there she felt misplaced there too. Then she went on her own and was doing well, and then all of a sudden, everything started falling apart for her. I don't know what happened in between because we weren't communicating then. But then after she found out that she was pregnant, she wanted to come and be with me, but she wanted to have at least a relative of hers close by, and we were always very close since I took care of her when she was born until I left uh, Illinois in 2004.
Would you agree that your granddaughter, Taylor Schabusiness, needs some drug treatment, some counseling, um, all of that?
I do. I do believe that she does need some counseling and some help. She needs help.
Do you believe that she has good qualities?
Yes,
What are
I
they?
believe. I She's a very caring person and also very trusting. She she trusted people that said they care for her, and actually always she she was um, what can I say that it she always end up getting hurt because she trusted people thinking they cared, but she's always have had the problem that wherever she goes, people just use her and she thinks they care, but they don't. Okay, they have disappointed her.
Do you believe that your granddaughter Taylor Schabusiness should be given the chance to possibly be on parole or extended supervision sometime in the future?
I do. I do believe. I know that she committed a crime, and I know that they want her to pay for it, but I believe that she should have the opportunity to come back to society one time and be with her son.
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions from me.
Any questions, Mr. Saunders?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Were you intending that she was going to stay on the Zoom, or you can certainly disconnect now if you want, ma'am, or you can remain on. But having said that, Mr. Freilich, do you have another witness?
Yes, I do, Your Honor. It's totally up to the court, but if, in my opinion, if she wants to stand, I would ask the court to consider allowing her to do that.
I think I just told her that.
Okay,
So she
okay.
can stay on if she wants.
Okay, thank you. Next, then I would call Valerie Armour.
Uh,
You have to get the microphone on.
Oh, sorry. Is it on? Okay. My name's Valerie Armour. It's spelled Valerie. Armour spelled Armor.
Okay, the witness is yours, Mr. Freilich.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. You are Valerie Armour,
Yes, I am.
and where do you live?
I live in Dublin, Ohio.
Are you married?
Yes, I'm married.
What's your husband's name?
Brian Armour.
Do you have kids?
Yes, I do. I
What-
have 4 children.
Are you employed, ma'am?
Yes, I am.
Where do you work at?
I work at Sun Behavioral Health. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner.
And what do you do there?
I work inpatient psychiatry with adolescents and adults.
How long have you worked there?
I've worked there for 5 years.
And tell me your educational background, just briefly.
I have 2 degrees from the Ohio State University. My first degree was a bachelor's of nursing in 1996, and my second degree was master's of science, nurse practitioner in psychiatry in 2016.
Do you know Taylor Denise Schabusiness?
Yes, I do.
Do you see her in court today?
Yes, I do.
She's seated to my left.
Yes, she is.
And are you related to her?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell the court how you're related?
So her mother is my first cousin. Marla is my first cousin, and Taylor's my second cousin.
Are you also here with your mother?
Yes, I am.
What's her name?
Roberta Connor.
And does she live in Ohio as well?
Yes, she does.
You came here together?
Yes, we did.
And what's the relationship with Roberta and Taylor?
Roberta is Taylor's great aunt. She is the older sister of Taylor's grandfather.
When Taylor was growing up, would you see her periodically in Ohio? Would she come to visit in Ohio?
Yes, she would.
Tell me a little bit about that.
One of the couple visits that I remember in particular, one was in the summer of 2001 when we were going through my grandfather's house. He had passed away in May 2001, and we gathered as a family to get together and go through belongings. Taylor was 3 at that time, and AJ was a baby.
And was there a picture of Taylor when she was 3 in a, like maybe a little skirt with a red top and tights?
Yes,
And was she standing by you?
yes, she was.
And who else was in that picture? You remember?
Marla was standing next to me on the left, and then my cousin was standing next to Marla.
Okay. And where was that picture taken?
That was taken in Grove City, Ohio, at my grandfather's house.
Okay. So have you had a connection with Taylor Schabusiness over the years?
Yes, I have.
Did she come to visit you on other occasions?
Yeah, she came down for a family reunion in 2013 that we had when she was 15.
That was with your daughter?
Yes,
Was that the picture that you gave me of you in the middle, your daughter on one side, and Taylor Schabusiness on the other side?
yes, it is.
And where was that
That
picture
was
taken?
taken at a park, I think on the east side of Columbus, where we had the family reunion.
Inside a pavilion?
Yes, inside a pavilion.
And describe Taylor at that time in 2013 from what you recall.
She appeared to be a happy 15-year-old girl. She had a great sense of humor like her mother. She appeared to be well adjusted at that time. I enjoyed visiting with her and asking her how her life was going. And I'd always told her I'd be available to her after her mother passed away.
Did you know about the losses that she suffered in her life? The loss of her mother, Marla, in 2009, and the loss of her brother, AJ, in July of 22?
Yes, I did. I grew up with her mother. We were very close as children. We spent holidays, summer vacations, and weekends together at my grandparents' house in Grove City, because when I was a child, I had moved to the East Coast. But we spent, weeks together in the summer playing, planning our future lives, playing with Barbies. We were very close as children.
Did you talk to Taylor about her feelings and how the loss of her mother affected her?
I did. I remember at Marla's funeral afterwards telling her I would always be available to her if she wanted to know more about her mother. I certainly would be available to tell her what she was like as a child, and I would be available for her the rest of her life if she needed anything. I lived in a different state, but I've always made myself available to her.
I think you gave me a picture of, tell me if you did, of Taylor and her brother AJ when they were younger, maybe with Taylor eating either a pulled pork on a bun on a plate, or you remember anything like that?
Yeah, that was after her mother's funeral. We were at my cousin's house in Hilliard, Ohio for the family gathering. We had both sides of the family there. Art's family was there and my family was there.
Would you agree that Taylor always had a supportive family, either in Ohio or Texas or Wisconsin?
Absolutely.
And from the context that you had with her growing up, did she appear to be a happy young lady, happy child?
She did at that time.
You came to find out about the charges and the trial and the convictions, correct?
Yes.
You're aware of what she's been found guilty of, correct?
Yes, I am.
And you're aware of the maximum possible penalties and all of that, correct?
Yes.
At least as to the first-degree intentional homicide charge, the statute indicates life imprisonment with either the possibility of extended supervision or parole or not. You understand that?
Yes, I do understand that.
Do you have any comments for the court to consider on that particular issue?
I do have some comments about that.
Okay, go ahead.
So Taylor, she comes from a loving family. I know her to be loving. I know her to have empathy. She's capable of love. I believe she has suffered immense trauma in her young life. First with losing her mother in 2009. Anytime somebody loses their mother at any age, it's a great trauma and a tragedy. So she grew up without her mother. And then from what I've heard, living with her stepmother and her father, I had always heard that they had slept in the basement. So
Who slept in the basement?
that Taylor and AJ had slept in the basement
Okay.
when when her father remarried. We had always heard that in the family. In 2019, we suffered more losses in the family. Taylor lost her grandmother in May. And then in September of 2019, we lost a cousin who was 27 to a motor vehicle accident. That would have been Taylor's first cousin. At that time, at that funeral, when I spoke with her father and AJ, she was doing well. She was working at the cheese factory. Her father, Art, was very proud of her at that time because she was doing well. And then I found out, had lost touch with her during the pandemic and found out about what had happened when we found out AJ passed away July 1st, 2022. That's when all this came out. So she lost her brother to a motorcycle accident. So our whole family has experienced a lot of loss, and Taylor has experienced a great amount of loss. I'm a mental health professional. She has a trauma history, and I believe she has mental health issues. I'm hoping as she goes forward, she can get the help she needs, and with some deep introspection, be able to work on her issues. And I'm here to be as much as I can with her on her next journey of life, as much as I can.
Do you have any comments on whether she should be considered for the possibility of parole or extended supervision?
I would like her to be considered for parole. I would like her to get a chance later in life to get to know her son. I think that would be very important to her, to be able to spend some time with him in person as she gets older, and other family members who are still around. Definitely.
Do you agree that Taylor needs drug and alcohol treatment?
Absolutely.
Do you agree that she needs mental health counseling?
Absolutely. And she needs to deal with her extensive trauma history.
Do you believe that she may need medication management?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Is she a lost cause?
She's not a lost cause.
Is she a monster?
No, she's not a monster.
She needs to be punished, correct?
She does need to be punished for what happened, and my family we regret what happened, and we apologize to Shad's family for what has happened.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any cross-examination from the state?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You can step down.
I'd like to call Arturo Coronado next,
Okay.
please. That's fine.
Okay. those were waiting, we're going to take the video off of you, Mr. Saunders. There is still the video running, however, for the grandmother. So you can't see her, but she still has the ability to look in. Okay?
Okay, Your Honor.
What do you think? Is she smiling? So I can't remember. It's been a while. Are they, going, obviously, guilty, but do they want her to go to a mental health center? I can't remember. A psych ward? Oh, here he comes.
Over here.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter. Now before the court, so help you God. Please have a seat and state and spell your name for the record.
Arturo Coronado,
Okay.
A-R-T, C-O-R-O-N-A-D-O.
Mr. Freilich, the witness is yours.
Thank you very much. Mr. Coronado, good morning. Your daughter is Taylor Denise Schabusiness, correct?
Correct.
And when she was born, she was born in Evanston, Illinois,
Yes,
and she lived with you and your late wife, Marla, there for several years till when, age 12 or so?
so 2009, yeah.
Okay. And then your late wife, she passed away. Did that take a toll on your daughter?
Of course.
Can you tell me how that impacted your daughter from what you saw, what you observed?
Just, she was young. I mean, she lost her mother, and it's just hard to explain, but yeah, things aren't the same.
It was a traumatic event for her. Is that fair?
Of course, sure.
And then at some point, the family moved from Evanston, Illinois to Green Bay in 2008. Is that right?
Correct.
And you came to Green Bay because of a job, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you lived here for a while in Green Bay, correct?
Yes,
She went to Bayport High School, correct?
correct.
She went to Bayview Middle School, correct?
Howard Tomical School District.
Yes. And then at some point, there were some issues at the Bayport High School and she went to Cotulla, Texas, correct?
Graduate, yeah.
And she lived with your parents, Esther and Juan Coronado in Temple, Texas. Is that right?
Correct.
And she graduated?
Yes, she did.
And was that about 2016 or so?
I believe so, yeah.
When you lived with her, was school a struggle for her or was she able to do the work?
From time to time, I mean, she did okay. She had some issues, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay, I'm just gonna see if you could just move the microphone a little closer or move a little closer because I can't hear you. Sorry. Would you help with homework and things like that?
Sure,
When you got remarried, did that take a toll on your daughter, Taylor?
I would think so, yeah.
Did you try to help in that regard to kind of bridge the gap?
Yep.
Okay. When she was living in Green Bay as a child, did you get her involved in any sports or activities?
Before I moved up, she was in soccer. She did band for a little bit.
Swimming?
No.
With regards to soccer, was she good at soccer?
Yeah.
She liked it?
Yep. Oh yeah,
Did you do some coaching?
I did.
Was that over at the Asco Noble Field or where was that?
No, this is in Illinois, actually.
Okay. Did she play soccer in Illinois and Wisconsin?
No, I think she may have tried out, but she didn't follow through with it. So
Okay.
she did a little volleyball as well.
Okay. So she was involved in activities, correct?
Sure.
What about art or drawing or things like that? Was she good at that?
Yes.
Can you
She's
tell-
very- She's pretty good. She's a very good artist. She can draw quite well.
Were you impressed by some of the pictures and things that she drew?
Definitely.
Does she have some artistic talents?
She does.
She have a creative side?
Yes.
When she was younger, would she help people? Someone needed help? Would she help?
Yes. She would.
And I think in the pre-sentence report on page 17 of 38, you talked with a probation agent and you indicated he stated, this is you, you're the he. He stated she was a good person, kind-hearted, and helped others out. Is that what you said?
Always, yeah.
Okay.
She
Now-
always went out of her way to help.
Okay. When she got a little older, after school, did she have a job here?
She did.
Where?
Big Beef City.
Okay.
Her first job.
Okay. What did she do there?
She worked the cashier and she did a little bit of cooking in the back.
Okay. Did she also get a job at Saputo Cheese Factory?
That was later on, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And what did she do over there?
She was an operator. She worked third shift.
Okay.
She worked there about 3.5 years. She did really well.
Made decent money, correct?
Yep.
She liked the job?
Yep.
And when she was working at Saputo Cheese Factory, was she living with you here in Green Bay?
No.
Okay. She had her own apartment?
Well, she lived with us for a little bit, but yeah, then she moved out with a friend.
Okay. Would you keep in touch with her?
Of course,
Your relationship with her, is it good?
definitely. Yeah.
I received some pictures. There are all kinds of pictures that you would take together as a family, correct? Yes.
As much as we could, yeah.
When she was living with your parents, Esther and Juan, in Texas, Temple, Texas, you take family photos there, correct?
Yes,
And when AJ was still alive, you'd take family photos with him, correct?
of course.
Was AJ pretty close with Taylor?
Yes.
He liked to ride motorcycles?
He just started to.
And would he let Taylor ride the motorcycle as well? No. Okay. But those two were how far apart in age?
About 2 years.
2 years?
2 years, yeah. They were very close.
They'd get together with extended family in Ohio, correct?
When we could, yeah. Mostly when they were younger.
And they'd certainly get together with your parents in Texas, correct?
Yes.
And so does Taylor have a strong family support network in the state of Texas and or Ohio?
Sure, everybody loves Taylor.
Think she's a monster?
No.
You understand what she was found guilty of by the jury, correct?
I do.
First degree, intentional homicide, mutilation of a corpse, third degree, sexual assault, all felonies, all repeaters. You understand that, correct?
I do.
You understand the penalties, correct? And then for the homicide conviction, it's life imprisonment. But the issue is whether she gets the possibility of extended supervision or not, possibility of parole or not. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you have any comments for the court on behalf of your daughter?
Sure, I don't think she needs life imprisonment. I mean, the mistakes were made. you know, her not being in the right state of mind when it happened, you know, has a lot to do with it. Her whole life, she was a good kid, you know, drugs mess people up. And that's what happened, but I don't think that she deserves life.
You think she should be,
She has a child, you know, and it'd be nice for her to be able to see her child.
you agree she's got to be punished, correct?
Yes,
But is it your testimony that you believe she should be given a chance at the possibility of parole sometime in the future,
most definitely. Yes,
or extended supervision? That's what they call it. Yes?
yes,
You knew that your daughter Taylor got involved with Warren Shabo, correct?
yes,
And he was the one that introduced her to drugs, correct?
correct,
Meth specifically, correct?
correct.
Intravenous drug use, correct?
She was like night and day. She completely changed. It's a different person.
You believe your daughter got addicted to the methamphetamine or other drugs?
Yes,
Do you believe that she should get some treatment, counseling?
she should have been getting treatment this whole time. I don't know why she hasn't.
With regards to your daughter, she has mental health problems, is that correct?
Correct,
She's been to Purveya Health and got treatment there, correct?
correct.
She's received treatment through Bellin Psychiatric Center in the past, is that fair?
Yep.
She was under a civil commitment order in order to take psychotropic medications, a court order, correct?
I believe so. Yep.
That she was found mentally ill in the past by a court of law here in the state of Wisconsin.
Yes,
You were involved in that process, weren't you?
I was.
Trying to get your help for your daughter, correct?
Yep,
Lots of different medications were tried, correct?
that is correct. Yeah, some that, like, she was just the guinea pig for some of that medication that just did not work and probably too strong. Not qualified, I guess, to say that, but just
What-
did not work for her.
Sure. And Mr. Coronado, when she was staying at the Nicolay Psychiatric Center, was it your understanding that she was getting injectable antipsychotic medication during that short period of time that she was there?
I believe so.
And then she was released and then the medication stopped, correct?
Correct.
Fair to say that your daughter had been receiving mental health treatment or counseling for quite a long time since her younger years?
That's fair. Yep.
That it would start, then it would stop. There was no consistency. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Do you feel that she fell through the cracks with regards to mental health treatment and all that other kind of treatment?
Definitely.
You talked to the people from the Department of Corrections, Rebecca Chavez, correct?
I believe that was her name. Wasn't sure.
Did you, when you found out that Taylor, your daughter, was involved with Warren Shabo, did you talk to her about the relationship, or did your daughter come to you and talk about the relationship, whether there were problems or it was good? Can you tell me about that?
No, they mostly kept to themselves. I knew she was seeing him, but they mostly kept to themselves. So she was working there, and then she quit her job and just hung out with him. So during that time, when he was out of jail, we didn't really communicate too much.
Was Mr. Shabo abusive to your daughter?
I believe it was, yeah.
When your daughter was living with you, did she ever come to tell you that she was having hallucinations, visual or auditory hallucinations? She was seeing things, hearing things, anything like that?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that, when that happened and what she told you?
Just that she would see shadows, from time to time.
And she'd hear things?
I believe so. Yep.
What did you do?
It would come and go. Well, just talk to her, calmed her down, walked around until we were able to get her some help, or try to get her some help through Purveya.
You agree that over time, the field of medicine, the field of psychiatry, the field of psychology improves every year, every year. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, if she was taking the medicine, you know, or if it was around, but I don't think the medicine really quite worked for her. You know, she'd be drowsy, would take a different effect on her.
Make her a zombie?
She didn't feel, definitely, yes.
What else were you going to say?
Just she wouldn't feel right. Her stomach would hurt, you know, and just a lot of issues with the prescribed medicine.
Would you agree that your daughter has redeeming qualities to her? Can you tell me what they are?
I don't know, it's sad for me to sit up here, you know, knowing what happened and stuff, and knowing my daughter the way, you know, she was, and the way I know she still can be. It's just night and day. She was always a loving, caring person. You know, she liked to have fun, liked to joke around a lot. You know, she's not the monster that, you know, she's being made out to be. That's for sure.
You agree your daughter's got to be punished?
I'm sorry.
Do you agree that your daughter has to be punished?
Has to be punished?
Yes.
I'm sure that's
Are you saying you want the court to give her a chance to get back into society in the future at some point?
definitely yes. Yes. She need help, mental help, for sure.
And
Is she going to get that help? You know, from whatever happens, you know, moving forward, I don't know, but she definitely needs help.
and is she able to love?
Yes.
Is she able to form relationships with family members,
Definitely.
friends?
Yep.
When she lived with you, did she have friends over sometimes or bring
All the
people
time.
over?
All the time. Yeah. She had many friends.
And did she like to go to Ohio to visit extended family over there?
Whenever we would go, yeah. Mostly when they were younger.
Your daughter, do you think she's a lost cause or not?
No. No.
Think she could be fixed?
Yes, for sure. Definitely.
Gonna take some time though, right?
With the right help, of course.
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Cross-examination from the state?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. You can step down. Mr. Freilich, another witness?
Yes, I'll call Dr. James O'Donnell, Your Honor.
Okay. Dr. O'Donnell, if you want to come on up.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God?
I do.
Please have a seat and state and spell your name for the record.
James O'Donnell, James, O'Donnell.
Okay, then, Mr. Freilich, the witness is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Dr. O'Donnell, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Can you tell us briefly about your education?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree of pharmacy from the University of Illinois, a doctor of pharmacy from the University of Michigan, a master's degree in nutrition from Rush University.
Previously, you testified at a motion hearing, correct?
Yes, sir.
And your curriculum vitae or your resume was previously filed with the court, correct?
Yes.
What professional experiences have you had?
I spent 5 years as a clinical pharmacist at the Cook County Hospital, responsible for developing pharmacy services and consulting with physicians, nurses, and patients on drug therapy. I spent 12 years at the Presbyterian St. Luke's Hospital with similar duties. But during that tenure, I switched from clinical pharmacy to clinical pharmacology, research and practice. During that time, I was appointed to the faculty of the Rush Medical College in the Department of Pharmacology, first as an instructor and then promoted to assistant professor. And currently I'm an associate professor at the Rush Medical College. I ended my hospital work at Rush Presbyterian St. Luke's, gone through a couple name changes. In the late 80s. Since then, I've stayed on the faculty and have extensive faculty experiences, but also at that time, I expanded my work in consultant work, consulting first with pharmaceutical companies, some government agencies. That pretty much switched to forensic matters and civil lawsuits and criminal matters in courts for various criminal events. Along the road, I've published 350 or so articles, including several dozen book chapters, all of which address, not all, but most of which address the adverse effects of drugs, but primarily therapeutic, but also recreational drugs. And I have edited 8 books. The last 8, number 8 hasn't been printed yet, but it's still in the printing and final editing process. 5 of those books are titled Drug Injury. The books address issues of both therapeutic and recreational, including amphetamines and methamphetamines and stimulants. 2 books address issues of the science of drug development. And that's a brief review of my 43-page resume.
You've worked as a clinical pharmacist.
A clinical pharmacist and a clinical pharmacologist.
What are you currently doing?
I'm currently an associate professor working at the Rush Medical College in the affiliated with the Ovarian Cancer Research Lab, a member of the Institutional Review Board for Patient Safety for Investigational Studies, and member of the Admissions Committee for the Medical College. And I also give lectures and seminars in the bioethics course in the graduate college. I described my editorial work. Unfortunately, that book is not finished. I intend it to be my last book. And then I do this forensic consulting, primarily in civil matters, but I do work in criminal matters like this, and that consultation work in civil and criminal matters is throughout the United States, including obviously Wisconsin.
You're in private practice, correct?
Yes, sir.
You do forensic consulting, correct?
I'm sorry?
You do forensic consulting?
Yes, I do.
What's the name of your business?
Pharma Consultant Incorporated.
And that's in Illinois?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever testified in court before?
Yes, sir.
How many times, sir?
More than 400 times in 40 years.
In what states?
Approximately 35 to 38 states, including Wisconsin. You can estimate 10 to 12 states that I haven't given testimony in.
You testified here in Brown County in other car crashes involving reckless homicide, correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you testified in any homicide cases?
Drug-induced homicide cases and other homicide cases I have testified, and have testified in death penalty hearings. Testified in most of the criminal testimony is in things like DWI and aggravated OWI, or drug-induced homicide by vehicle, or selling drugs to people that kill the people and they arrest the person that sell or give the drug to them.
Have you testified in state and federal courts?
I have, including in Wisconsin.
Have you testified for private defense attorneys, for prosecutors, for U.S. attorneys?
Yes, yes, and yes.
The topics that you've testified about, can you briefly tell me about that?
It's simple matters. It's, did the drug cause an injury or not? If so, how did the drug cause an injury? What could have been done to avoid the injury? Within civil matters, since I'm also a pharmacist, I evaluate whether or not the pharmacist committed errors, violated standard of practice, if their error or violation caused injury to patient who got the wrong drug with the wrong directions or was not cautioned about an interaction between one or the other drug. Those are the only cases I testify in the standard of care of a health professional.
Have you worked with drug testing as well?
I've done that in my training and for a period in a research sabbatical 40 years ago. I don't do drug testing. I do interpret drug testing. That's done in a toxicology laboratory or a hospital laboratory to evaluate that toxicology results into a clinical context and what those numbers mean in terms of what effect it would have on the individual from whom the samples were drawn for the toxicology testing. And I have also given lectures on principles of toxicology in a graduate college.
Have you dealt with pharmacokinetics and detection periods?
Yes, pharmacokinetics is part of pharmacology. It is what the body does to the drug, and detection period, by definition, is how long the drug can be assessed, analyzed in various body fluid, be it either blood, saliva, and urine being the most common, and urine being the matrix or biologic sample for which the longest detection period exists.
Have you worked with government agencies?
Yes, many. Wisconsin Board of Pharmacy, Illinois Board of Pharmacy, Illinois Departments of Mental Health, Public Health, Attorney General, Drug Enforcement Administration, United States Attorney, United States Congress, Chicago Police Department. There may be a few others.
Wisconsin Board of Pharmacy?
That was the first one I mentioned, yes.
Have you ever examined patients to determine the beneficial or toxic effects related to drugs?
I did that in my clinical practice in both the Cook County Hospital and Presbyterian St. Luke's Hospital. With a period of about 20 years, I've done that in my forensic practice. And indeed, one of the other things I do is I do private consulting outside of any type of litigation for patients who are seeking answers or assistance on medication management. And sometimes patients are referred to me by their physicians to help solve their puzzles, solve their problems.
Now, with regards to this case, you were retained by the defense, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what did I ask you to do as far as services in this case?
You asked me to evaluate the matter, evaluate this Schabusiness, chronic and acute drug use related to the homicide. Introduce so to review police reports, videos, autopsy, toxicology of the victim, pre-sentence. I've read since then pre-sentence investigation reports. I did interview Miss Taylor, the defendant, before the hearing I was here for. I think it was in June or July. And I provided you with my opinions as to her drug use, her drug history, my assessment as to the toxicity from primarily an intense, high dose, almost daily intravenous methamphetamine use on her brain and her behavior, and also reviewing her psychological and psychiatric history, what effects those her methamphetamine use would have on her mental illnesses that she was diagnosed with. So I didn't do it, the mental illness diagnosis that was done by mental health professionals, but I considered what effect the mental illnesses would have on the drug use and vice versa, because that's part of what I do. We look at the drug, but again, get the clinical context. So what is this drug use, either whether it's quantified, actually measured in the exact amounts, or qualified, described as how frequent. Look at any evidence surrounding this as to what or how the drug use affects an individual's life, then take into that, incorporate the clinical context of prior psychiatric treatment, psychological and psychiatric diagnosis, any psychotropic drugs for any mental illnesses, the effectiveness of those psychotropic drugs, whether or not the patient was compliant with the medications, whether or not when they use the medications and were not using methamphetamine, whether their behavior enhanced. So it's a lot of moving parts, but that's what a pharmacologist does, in contrast to toxicologist that just looks at the numbers and says, this is how much was used.
You understood, or you were provided information as to the events that happened with regards to this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're aware that blood was taken from a bucket and then used for testing purposes, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what drugs Taylor Schabusiness admitted to using up to and during the date of the incident?
Yes. She was using methamphetamine and marijuana, cannabis.
Daily?
Marijuana daily, methamphetamine almost daily. Those are her words. So there were some days she didn't use it, and that was over the course of approximately a 2-year period, with the exception of when she became pregnant, decided and she stopped drug use, but drug use resumed after she gave birth and lost her baby, came back to Wisconsin.
Methamphetamine is highly addictive, is that fair?
Extremely highly addictive, one of the most addictive drugs that we know.
Can, based on your training and experience and knowledge, can methamphetamine use cause hallucinations, visual or auditory?
Yes, both. They can cause a form of drug-induced psychosis.
What is psychosis?
Psychosis, the easiest way to describe it is a loss of touch with reality.
Delusion?
Delusions, includes hallucinations, just the loss of touch. What they do makes no sense, what they say makes no sense. They're not reasoning with, they're, to use an old term, they're out of it.
If Ms. Schabusiness indicated that she had used 51 hits of methamphetamine prior to the incident on or about February 22nd of 2022, would you have a concern about that?
What I have concern, yes, it's, I've never heard of that much methamphetamine used in one setting. I'd be interested to learn what the gram weight is of the methamphetamine, because we have a little bit more context then, but someone, for instance, using 1, 2, 3 grams a day represents tolerance. The patient, the subject has to use more to get the same effect. But even in the course of use of using it, the way methamphetamine is used, it's astounding.
As far as Taylor Schabusiness, how did she use it? Was it IV? Did she smoke it?
In her usual method of administration is IV, but she told me that she smoked it on the day of the homicide. That was the preferred method of the victim used, who was also a methamphetamine user, and that's how that it's. The term hit applies is to smoking rather than injecting.
Was it your understanding that the victim and Ms. Schabusiness were using meth prior to the incident on February 22nd of 2022?
Immediately prior to, and that for some time regularly used method together, and that he was her source.
Did Taylor tell you when she first started using meth?
Yes, when her husband was released from prison, he was a methamphetamine user. He returned to using methamphetamine, and he got her started on it. And that I have a figure in my mind of approximately 2 years. I think that release was late 2019. At that time.
Okay. Did Taylor tell you or describe the effects that meth had on her?
It destroyed her life. Those were not her words, but with my take on it, she lost a job that she had for 3 years. It was mentioned earlier, the Saputo Cheese Company. She told me she liked the job. She made good money working there. But when she started using meth, she stopped going to work. Meth was all that she did. She had other jobs, but they never lasted because she was either high or unable to go to work. It changed her. She became, I didn't know anything about her personality, which I've heard about today, but she was arrested for aggressive behavior against police officers. And I think that's what precipitated her commitment to Nicolette for the forced psychiatric treatment and medication treatment. She hadn't had that type of behavior before methamphetamine use. She had mental illnesses. She did have psychiatric diagnoses, but those were much more prominent after the methamphetamine use.
What psychiatric diagnoses do you understand that Ms. Schabusiness had at the time of the incident in this case?
By my reading, they're described as bipolar 1, with psychotic symptoms, schizoaffective spectrum disorder, PTSD, uh, depression or major depressive disorder, and history of ADHD for which she was not treated.
Do you have any opinions to share with the court on the issue of impairment or that kind of topic on the date of the incident?
Yes. Based on um, in the setting of long-term chronic intensive use of methamphetamine in a mental
Go ahead.
in the setting of in this young lady's life with a mental illness diagnosis or defect that is principally bipolar, uh, extensive use on that day would cause significant intoxication and impairment. Methamphetamine affects the prefrontal lobe, executive function, judgment, discretion, consequences, and through a mechanism of altering the brain chemistry, principally dopamine and subsidiaries of dopamine and other neurotransmitters. That's the mechanism of the acute use in a setting of chronic use in similar situations. She's already damaged goods. She always has brain damage. She already has brain damage from coming into the setting on the date of the homicide and using again. In other words, the chronic use causes over the constant daily insults to the brain function, the brain chemistry, the brain substance, such that even without the use of continuing use of methamphetamine, there is chronic damage that is present as a result of that long-term use, such that an individual has impairments to that, again, the prefrontal lobe, the cerebral cortex, deliberation, evaluation, judgment, risk-taking. So on that day, extreme intensive methamphetamine intoxication. This young lady, because of her mental illness, the use of the use of methamphetamine in the setting of mental illness, bipolar, particularly bipolar that's not being treated with a psychotropic drug. The methamphetamine exacerbates the bipolar disorder. And indeed, for the Schabusiness, the neuropsychologist who evaluated her a year after the arrest, and a year over a period of more than a year since her incarceration, where she has no exposure to drugs, still has this mental illness and still has psychotic features, and therefore the mental illness is not drug induced, but in this setting, drugs will enhance the manifestations or negative consequences of the bipolar. And then finally, and I think I alluded to it, bipolar does have effective drug treatments, certainly much more effective than schizophrenic medications. However, if a patient is not given the medications, is not or does not take the medications, they don't have the benefit of the therapeutic gains with medications. under that setting where we have a patient who has a mental illness and is untreated and uses a toxic methamphetamine, there's even greater risk for a worsening mental impairment in setting where it's, it's just total psychosis and a total loss of reality. Long opinion, but I think that's everything.
If, if a person like Taylor Schabusiness used marijuana at a young age, can that impair, alter, or distort her memory?
Yes. What are the consequences is memory distortion, but there's also a shrinkage of the development of the brain. The brain doesn't develop in a adolescent that uses marijuana chronically the way to its fullest potential as it would without marijuana. And part of that is so you're just dealing with less mass. One of the impairments that documented is memory distortion. And then I haven't said anything about the acute effects of marijuana with methamphetamine, because marijuana, in my opinion, is you rate these drugs in terms of risk on a scale of 1 to 100. Marijuana is at a 5 and methamphetamine is at 1,000.
As far as methamphetamine, does that impair cognition and other temperaments in an individual that uses?
Cognition, thinking, deliberation, control and behavior, risk taking. There's even something that I just recently learned, episodic memory impairments. One of the applications of that is that people get so messed up using methamphetamine, but they continue using it. Now they're addicted to it, but they forget how bad they were during their last near-death binge. So yeah, but it's cognition and it just wipes out thought processes. There's no control over thoughts. There's no control over behavior.
Impairs memory?
Methamphetamine, yes, it does impair memory.
Marijuana as well?
Yes.
With regards to methamphetamine, can that drug cause someone to have violent behavior?
Oh, yes. Violent behavior. And also part of the violent behavior is the criminal element of people robbing and shooting you to get your drugs or steal your money that you're using to buy drugs. But yes, violent behavior, violent attacks on individuals, attacks on police officers, suicides, homicides. It's one of the most predictably violent and aggressive stimulating drugs.
Fair to say that the more meth you use, the worse it gets as far as violence, aggressiveness?
That's fair, but I would have to be caution that not everybody's going to have the same extent of the violence, which is good, because otherwise we'd have many more, considering the number of methamphetamine users in our population. We have many more drug-induced homicides, methamphetamine attacks.
Dr. O'Donnell, is it your testimony that meth use alters the brain chemistry?
It absolutely, yes, it is my testimony. That is my opinion. That's well described. That's how it causes the high, by altering the brain chemistry. It says you do it too much and invade. There's some um, literature that describes eventually the methamphetamine users develop Parkinson-like disease because their brain chemistry has been so messed up when they were young that the consequences are that they're at much greater risk for developing Parkinson's and at earlier age than Parkinson's is seen. Parkinson's is someone with movement disorders and has trouble walking and controlling their muscles.
Is it your testimony that methamphetamine use, chronic acute use can create delusions, hallucinations, psychosis?
Yes, it is.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, just briefly, Doctor. So I wanted to pick up where we left off there. You said that, you know, chronic methamphetamine use, alters the brain chemistry. Is that right?
Yes.
And is that something that can be unaltered in some way, the brain chemistry?
Pardon?
Is that something that can be unaltered in some way, the brain chemistry?
With many, in regular circumstances, the chemical changes that are induced by a drug do go back to normal in certain circumstances, certain drugs. So the answer is yes.
Okay, but so I mean, you're saying from a young age, chronic use of methamphetamine, fundamentally changes the brain. Is that consistent with what you
Yes.
said? Okay, so then that chronic use at some point, is that able to be reversed in some manner?
Any damages are permanent.
Okay. And I guess one of the damages of long-term meth abuse, I think you said no control over thoughts, no control over behaviors.
That was acute.
For acute.
That was
use.
acute.
Okay.
The damages of chronic methamphetamine use is that there can be psychosis, there can be lapses into psychosis. It can, and it can worsen any other mental illnesses. That's the major risk. Methamphetamine use doesn't cause mental illnesses. Methamphetamine use can exacerbate mental illnesses while it's being used.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you're not a psychologist, right?
No, sir,
Nor a psychiatrist.
I am not.
So you rely on some of those prior diagnoses in reaching some of your.
Yes, I'm relying on diagnoses made by psychiatrists and psychologists.
Okay, and I think you said the principal one was bipolar 1 that Mr. Business had.
Yes,
That was a prior diagnosis that was made.
yes,
That was nothing you, I guess, are capable of diagnosing.
right. I would not diagnose it.
Okay. So, if a court-appointed psychologist in the case found there was, quote, no credible evidence she has an underlying mental illness such as bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or a like condition, you wouldn't be able to dispute that, right?
No, I think it would be no, I would not dispute that.
But, obviously using these prior diagnoses helps form your current opinion about her mental state. Is that right? These prior diagnoses of bipolar 1, schizophrenia.
I used prior diagnoses and subsequent diagnoses to identify the mental illness that she had and has, and then I considered the effects of methamphetamine without mental illness, methamphetamine with mental illness, the effect of methamphetamine on any mental illness, and the effect of the inability or the non-treatment for mental illness that puts her at risk for behavioral alterations and also greater risk of impairment and toxicity from methamphetamine use. Again, it sounds like it's a lot of moving parts, but I hope it hope it described it so it's not confusing.
Sure. So the information you're relying on in terms of the acute methamphetamine on the date of this incident, that's information that comes from Schabusiness, right?
It comes from, yes, it does, and it's corroborated by the toxicology reports of the victim.
So her intoxication level is corroborated by the toxicology results of some
Well,
person?
if they're using methamphetamine together, and he's the source of methamphetamine, and she's an addict of methamphetamine, she's going to use methamphetamine. And that's the underlying basis for me believing that when she said she used methamphetamine during those activities.
Sure, but you have no information about the amount she used
No, I don't.
or the exposure she had previously or tolerance she had.
I assume she had tolerance. The amount she used previously, with frequency, I don't know whether I got that in my notes or not, and I don't have my notes, so I don't know exactly. But in part of her treatment, she was identified as having methamphetamine use disorder and cannabis use disorder, as well as bipolar 1. I think that those were the diagnoses at the Nicolette Treatment Center, which is not too long before the homicide.
Sure, in 2021's, but in terms of objective evidence of her intoxication under methamphetamine, marijuana, whatever substance the night of the incident, you have no information.
I have no toxicology tests for her.
Okay, guys, I don't know what's going on. That's not on me.
She said she's 51 hits. Did she tell you that? Or?
No, she did not. I just heard that last night on the phone and this morning in court.
All right, but that would be something you never heard of before here.
I had never heard of that before.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. I have nothing further.
You're welcome.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor. I have no other witnesses other than possibly my client I have to talk to one time.
Well, we started late this morning. It's 11:45. Break for about 15 minutes. Just keep going. Otherwise, we take lunch. I don't know how much time we take. That's what I think we're going to do. I guess, Mr. Fraley, if your client is going to testify, maybe I reassess that when we arrive back here.
Okay.
But let's break for 15 minutes. Everybody can take a brief recess. You can speak with your client. We'll come back at noon and decide how we want to proceed from here.
Okay, thank you so much.
We're recess.
Did they say how long? Because I didn't hear nothing. Hold on. I'm going to look somewhere else here in a minute. But I want to do this real quick. Did they say they were going to lunch? Anybody? Anybody know? Oh, the internet's slow. Holy crap. This is weird. Oh my. Sorry if you're wearing headphones. Not my fault. Okay, Karen, I'm going to show you something. I don't know if it's on your phone. Look at TikTok compared to YouTube. I mean, does that make sense? Oh. Look at this, you guys.
Will be $25 million to support mentoring and other services specifically for young people. These
What?
include support for young people who have been affected.
Whatever. I'm going to silence you, dude, because I don't know what's going on. All right, let me look. Watch live. Well, we'll see if it comes back. Okay, if I looked at one on Facebook to connect with North Carolina missions. Oh, that's cool. Oh, wow. That's cool. Okay, I don't know what's going on here with this channel. I don't know. I don't even know how long. Do I? Okay, hold on. I'll find it. Because Facebook is so different to me too. Let me go there right now. Not many people are there, but you know, at least it gets more people's. Hold on, I think I got it here. No, that's the it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Does it let me share it? Hold on. Copy link. All right. Oh, there we go. Got it. Hold on. That should go to it. But yeah, it just reaches more people, and that's why I do these other platforms. But you just never know. You know what I mean? I know, right? And let me tell you something. These people on TikTok are really nice to me. I mean, I haven't been on TikTok that long, but TikTok doesn't like true crime. I can tell you that much. They have gave me a few strikes just for reading nothing graphic, a missing person sign. And then they would not give me the strike, okay, because I appealed. And then it would happen to the same videos again because you're getting bots. And I'm like, I'm reading a flyer. It's just, their name, their age, where they're from, where to call. You know what I mean? It was so weird. You can't talk to a person. You cannot tweet to them, nothing. I need a new cheap phone. I need another laptop, man. I got some new software though for making videos. Okay, I'm gonna see, and maybe you can too, Karen, if you want. I'm gonna see the other channels that are streaming this, like Court TV and stuff, to see what they got going on there. They ended theirs. What's going on? They're not live. Let's see Court TV or Law and Crime. Okay, they're still on. When are they going to be back? 12 p.m. Central? Oh, it's a 15-minute break. Okay. It's a 15-minute break, you guys. 15 minutes. Yes, I'm hungry too. I need to go get food. I don't have any food. I know. Can you believe that? No, you can't tweet them or nothing. These bots. You deal with bots. I've seen people, like even famous people, lose their accounts just like overnight, and they don't know why. And they make a new TikTok channel and say, TikTok, can you please give me my channel back or my blue check mark back? And it's just weird. I don't know, all these bots. But it's a better platform to get everything, like you do on Twitter, you put up a flyer. and how that goes, a good ripple effect. So yeah, but I like on YouTube where I can go live and I'm helping families and families are coming on my channel. You know what I mean? And they're super nice and grateful. That's what they tell me. I'm just happy they trust me with their family because it's real life. You know what I mean? Oh, and that's another one, Karen. If you're still here, you know the dog that got the 5-foot assassin, Yoda? Well, you know me and I make my funny videos and I and I even did it on here saying that he was a hero, the dog. They said to me that my video was graphic. How's it graphic? It's a picture of a dog. A canine dog. Are you kidding me? So yeah, that was weird. So within a couple minutes, I don't know, did I? Let me go look. I'm live. I'm live. Yeah. Here, I'll take a screenshot for you. Nope, I'll show you. Screenshot. Come on. Okay, Karen, I'm going to show you the screenshot. Here you go. Oops. That link took you to a random bunch of people I follow by pumpkins. What? Oh, wow, that's weird. So, yeah, it shows I'm live. That is weird. Very weird. Let's see. I mean, I could be doing something wrong. I give up. Facebook and me no longer on good terms. Yeah, that can be dangerous, Facebook. There is a lot of drama on there. I don't like it because I have a dysfunctional family, so I'm not really on it. I was on it, for my mom when she had cancer to keep the family updated, but that was pretty much it. And now I just use it for missing people and people trying to get justice and unsolved crimes. That's it. Okay, they should be back from break here any minute. Let me look here. I'll keep looking at this channel and see when they come back. Oh my God. I was going to be at another court hearing, but I guess I'm not. Well, it's only a scheduled hearing anyways. I want to be there for the main, but still I wanted to be nosy, Karen, and see what's going on a case that I'm doing. Yes, Yoda, they did. Yep, they sure did. There was nothing graphic. There was no copyrighted music, okay, because I make sure of it. And it was like a 16-second video saying Yoda is a hero. Yeah, very strange. And I even did it here on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. I just don't get it. Oh well. But other than that, I like it because you just put something up there real quick to grab people's attention, and they can go research and do whatever they want. Um, and nobody's mean to me, unlike they are here on YouTube. Maybe you have a setting that ain't right. Okay, I'm checking out that news channel. Nothing going on yet. So here we go. I'm just gonna put this on the screen here, and then I will shut up once they come back, because it should be any minute, you guys. Hold on, something's wrong here. Oh, here, I got it. Here we go. There we go. Oh no! What are they doing? Sorry, guys. It wasn't me. It's them. That's crazy. Okay, let's see if this happens again. That was loud. I'm sorry who's ever wearing headphones. Not my fault. Let's see what happens. Boy, this news station is having some problems today. Yep, me too. After my mom passed, I was on it maybe for a week after, and that's it. Couldn't handle it. My family's very dysfunctional. I know there's some ugly stuff out there, and I don't want none of my personal business out there. I don't want, some I do, you know what I mean? Because, I'm a real person and I'm proud of, my kids and grandbabies. But nobody needs to know where I live. They don't need to know the state. They don't need to know my real name. Because I don't go out bothering people. But the way it's getting that if you even make a comment somewhere, my God, people are doxing people for leaving comments. It's so weird. And people are suing each other. It's just crazy. Crazy, crazy. What are you doing today, Karen? Thank you for being here. You're always here for me, though. And anybody else that's here or watches the replay, thank you. So, I wish Miss Barbara was here because, oh my God, there's a Missouri case that, how I do stuff? I'll look at like a mainstream or a high profile case, but it leads me to cases nobody's talking about. Okay. Oh boy, there's 3 cases in Missouri that popped up. Now I gotta do something about. 2 of them are homicides. Yeah, of course. Oh, here we go.
I trust you. You say that you say that you're a friend. You're his friend. You said that in the statements. It's like, man. But I walked into a program and it's free. You can go get help and it's free. All over the place there's help. it doesn't cost a dime, you know? It's either, and the first thing they tell you in there, you know, you want to continue doing what you're doing. It's going to be jail, institution, or death. And you chose that path. You chose the wrong path. They sit here talking about being rehabilitated. Is Shad's mother going to ever rehabilitate from this? No, but you can go to an institution, you can go to prison and try to be rehabilitated, but I don't see no reason why you'd have parole after the doctor had just mentioned, once you have so much damage, it's irreversible. You know, so why would, don't make no sense to me even to have the option of parole to come back and to gain someone's trust like that again. You know, because that is like the lowest thing a person can do. You know what I mean? I just don't understand that. And the biggest thing is, you know, like I said, you know, the help is free and it's there. You chose not to take, you know, I'm sure you knew you had a problem, you know. You can't blame it on childhood. You know, there's help out there. And if you take the path to go get the help, you wouldn't be in this situation right now. None of us would be in this situation. But to take the cowardly path that you did and to make other people suffer because you were suffering is pretty shitty. So that name Taylor Schabusiness fits you well. And I'm not a praying man, but after Judge Walsh's sentences today, I will pray that you meet the same fate as your idealistic Jeffrey Dahmer. So have a good life, Schabusiness.
And then the next speaker will be a statutory crime victim, so we'd ask the media be advised of that, Judge.
Okay, I just want to, all right, they're indicating they are going to make sure that they're not videoed. Okay, if you could just, sir, before you start, if you just state your name for the record.
Michael Therian.
Go ahead.
Taylor, I just want to say that I forgive you for what you've done to my son. And yeah, you made a bad choice, and now you have to live with it. But you know, I'm gonna miss Shad. He was a wonderful child too. Growing up, just mild mannered and just happy, and I know you made a bad choice, and like I said, I forgive you, and I'm gonna ask the judge if you can, you know, if she can see the streets again sometime. You know, it may not be soon, but I believe everybody makes bad choices, and maybe not to the scale, but I think there's a lot of hope for you. I think, you know, you can make use of your time and be a better person and do great things yet, you know, so it does no good for me to hate you, you know. I know you got a heart. I know you got a mind, and I wish you no harm, and I hope things go well for you. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other witnesses or people I want to speak? Mr. Saunders.
No, I don't believe so.
Very good. Then I'll turn to the state for a sentencing recommendation.
Thank you. So ultimately, the state's recommendation is that the defendant not be eligible for release at any point onto extended supervision. And obviously we're here for legally and morally the most serious offense somebody can commit in this state. And really I think a few points bear emphasis. I'm not going to rehash the entire trial testimony for the court. But I do think a few points bear emphasis. Really, the manner and nature of which Ms. Schabusiness caused Shad's death in this case, I think is really one of the more egregious, frankly incomprehensible methods of ending another person's life that we've seen in this county and certainly in a significant period of time. So it's one thing we sometimes see intentional homicides where there is a bad choice. There is a decision in a moment of anger or whatever it is to pull a trigger on a gun or to hit somebody in anger. And while that intent exists when they're committing that act or when they're pulling that trigger, it's sometimes rather fleeting. The manner, as we heard from the defendant herself, explain how she ended Chad's life. This really wasn't a bad decision. It was a series of conscious efforts. It was continued effort over, as she said, 3 to 5 minutes, as she's telling and describing for Detective Groff and Detective Kemp, pantomiming how she's pulling harder, how she's glibly talking about how he's turning purple, and I liked it. I'm pulling harder. He's coughing up blood. I'm pulling harder. I kept going. I was waiting for him to die. This really is an involved process. It's a method of ending another person's life that really is quite significant. And I think evinces some significant concerns going forward, both in looking at the nature of the offense as we have to, but in looking at some of the other factors the court's to consider, and which I'll be commenting on earlier. It's really one of the most horrific ways to end a person's life. And again, it's bad enough to do to anyone, but as we heard, there was this level of trust and friendship and familiarity between the two, which I think is just really makes the acts of the defendant really incomprehensible in that respect. You have obviously the method of ending his life was significant and serious, but after the fact, not realizing in the course of this conduct her actions are going too far, and to the opposite, actually going further, and as I commented on earlier, but not then owning up to what happened, not realizing the impact of her subsequent acts would have on Shad and his memory, on his family, on this community, really, to engage in the acts that she did with his body, which I'm not going to comment on what those are. The court and counselor are aware of what happened, and the systematic and organized and laborious efforts she undertook. Again, that's nothing we've seen in this county. I can't imagine in many counties have seen acts of callous brutality like that. And I do think that's an extremely aggravating factor. I recall Dr. Tranquita's testimony from trial talking about the amount of effort and volition and choice that would have to be done to undergo what the defendant did over a period of hours. This was not again, one bad choice in some respects. It was the choice to end his life in the first place, certainly a bad choice, but continued bad choices throughout the next day, throughout the morning and into the night, where she's finally stopped by law enforcement. It's really the three convictions that Ms. Schabusiness was convicted of, I think are just really some of the more egregious conduct that the court will sentence a person on for some time. The court saw the entire 8-hour interview in the course of the litigation. We saw a portion or portions of that interview as she's describing this to law enforcement. And really, we see really from moment one, and that continued throughout the pendency of the proceedings in the case, to her comments in the PSI. We'll see if what the allocution is today, but really a lack of remorse or understanding or appreciation, I guess, is in some respects of the conduct that she's engaging in. We saw her calmly describe what happened, at some points being rather glib and smirking about what she had done. As we see later in the PSI, having very little remorse for what she's done. And ultimately, the defendant, we've heard a lot about drug use and mental health history, which I'll comment on later. But really, the defendant herself is telling us why this happened. And it wasn't because methamphetamine, it wasn't because of mental illness. She's telling law enforcement why this happened. It happened because she liked it. It's because she wanted to do it. And again, throughout the entirety of this case, we see this underlying motive is essentially, it's kind of consistent, right? We see, and we have seen acts of acting out, both in court and to examiners who are seeing her. It's consistent in the state's view with a lack of remorse, of understanding of the conduct that she engaged in. And I think that's all consistent. I think it's all an aggravating circumstance for the court to consider at sentencing. And I want to talk to, because impact on the crime victims is a factor the court considered. And I want to comment on that in two respects. First, the perseverance of this family to have the attitude they have about the case and about Taylor is admirable. Is to hear the things they've had to hear and experience the things they've had to experience, I think is tremendous. So the thought of the defendant having perpetrated this act and impacting them in that way, I think is incredibly concerning. I also, it was heartening, as I've been the prosecutor for many months on this case and reading the PSI, getting to know more about Shad, and I want to comment on that because unfortunately the case we've heard, really everything we've heard about him has been in the context of what Taylor did to him. And it's really unfortunate that that's the memory that some people will have about him. And again, that's a result of the defendant's acts to, in some respects, really tinge the memory that some may have of him. And I don't want that to be the case, but we heard the good. We heard how he was a good and a quiet kid, how he would always hug his dad on the way out of before he left the house, how he would read and knit and crochet with his younger sister. And that's a person the defendant took out of this world. You know, for all the talk about how young the defendant is, Shad was 24 when he passed. So all the things we hear the defendant wants to experience in life, she still has that opportunity in a confined setting. And simply put, Shad does not. So the impact on the crime victim, I think, is significant. We then look at Schabusiness's character. I guess I'll first comment on the prior history, which we consider, and I guess we're also sentencing on. There are 3 prior convictions. She was just placed on probation 6 weeks before this offense, and appropriately so. In reviewing the complaints, she kicked an officer. There's indications of methamphetamine or other substance abuse that led to that conduct. She then, in the fleeing case, fled at 80 miles an hour down the downtown Green Bay when it's populated with bar patrons and other pedestrians walking down the street. She's hopping curbs. She's not stopping. She's blowing through red lights. Again, there was indicia that drug use was at play there. And those were both in 2020. So as we heard earlier, there was ample time in reviewing the materials. Efforts were made to address the underlying substance abuse issues. She was placed on probation, and really nothing of much was accomplished in that short period of time. The little that was accomplished, she absconded from electronic monitoring. She cut off the bracelet and really then obviously engage in misconduct. So the state agrees that, considering this idea of rehabilitation, and that's always a goal, but in some respects, that opportunity was afforded both during the criminal cases and in reviewing all of the materials at many points throughout her life. And unfortunately, either was not followed through with, was not taken seriously. And I think that's a concern going forward. We consider the background of the defendant, and I echo the comments earlier. That's not a childhood. That's not an early adolescence that anyone should have to go through. And that's, it's really, it's difficult to hear some of that stuff. But when we consider that sort of background information, unfortunately, we deal with a lot of people who have substance abuse issues in the criminal justice system that lead them to make choices they wouldn't normally make, that leads them to become thieves or become burglars or become misdemeanant offendants. Really, I'm not sure we have a nexus here between that underlying substance issue or mental health history and the conduct that we're sentencing her for today. Certainly, we've had a lot of litigation or testimony about the mental health history of the defendant. The court-appointed experts called a majority of that into doubt, and obviously the jury disagreed that there was any mental disease or defect that led to this behavior. And I comment on that because, it's one thing just to say this person has a mental health history or a substance abuse history, and it's important to note, but really why that's relevant at sentencing is it's sometimes a nexus or it's a explanation for one's conduct that maybe then would lead towards maybe rehabilitative efforts. I'm not sure in the case there's that nexus between the prior drug history, mental health history to the extent there is one, and the defendant's conduct here. It appears there was methamphetamine use. We don't know how much, and we don't know, given some of the comments of the defendant after the fact, how much that impacted her decision making. Certainly probably didn't help, but we, as the doctor said today, we've now had this long period of essentially forced sobriety, and we're seeing aberrant behavior throughout that time. Certainly, obviously, nothing to the extent of what she did to those histories, and rehabilitation is always a goal of the criminal justice system. And I would think most people in the public and in the state certainly would agree with that as a first option, as a response to addiction, to low-level offenses, rehabilitation is a primary goal. Rehabilitation, while important, should not be a primary goal for the court in this case. And I say that in part because of what the defendant did. I think criteria like punishment and deterrence and protection of the public are more primary factors. But it was very concerning to not only hear the defendant talk about the offense to law enforcement, but the comments that were made in the pre-sentence report, which, as I mentioned, I think evince just an utter lack of remorse for what happened. And it's relevant, a lack of remorse to one's character. Obviously, if somebody's remorseful for their conduct, that reflects favorably on their character, and the state would be the first to acknowledge when that's the case. Here, not only do we have a lack of that, we have really the opposite. We have the defendant in the PSI on page 7 saying, quote, "I don't have any regrets about what I did, and I do not feel remorseful for Shad." So the state's concern really is more, comments like that go more towards protection of the public and the ultimate question for the court of whether this is a person who should be afforded the opportunity to be released. Because really lack of remorse in many respects is more fundamental to protection of the public and those sort of criteria. And that's because understanding, appreciating, being remorseful of one's conduct helps that rehabilitation effort, and it helps ultimately then protection of the public. If you're not acknowledging what you did and that it was bad and that you should feel bad to the victim who did what the defendant did to the victim, why should there ever be a potential for release, to be released back into the community without that understanding? That's step one in the rehabilitation effort. And we don't have that yet. And really, we have something completely contrary to that. And that's extremely concerning. So in that respect, I agree with the Department of Corrections in the case. They're recommending Ms. Schabusiness not be eligible for release, and the state's joining in that. I've reviewed the defense PSI from Mr. Highland and Ms. Nitz, who were retained. And you know, they acknowledge in some respects the logical course would be to not be released without the possibility of release. But they come to a different conclusion for really three reasons, and I wanted to comment on that. First, they comment that she has a documented history of mental health issues, including hallucinations, ideations, extreme emotional highs and lows, things like that. I do think that's inconsistent with the expert testimony from the court-appointed witnesses in the case, from Dr. Engen, from Dr. Seipel. Really, I commented on Dr. Seipel's quote to the doctor earlier in his testimony. I'm not sure if that's the case here. I think it's fair to say some of the beliefs are questioning the behavior that we're seeing, wondering if it's volitional. Some doctors even being more forceful in that opinion that it is, that it's fundamentally volitional choices that the defendant's making. Dr. Seipel found no credible evidence in that, and we're not here to litigate that. I comment on that because if that's one of the bases to conclude that she is eligible for release, I don't know if that's consistent with the evidence that the court's been presented in the case. Second, her intense use of methamphetamine just prior to the offense. Again, I don't know how much of an impact that had. Certainly, we heard about sometimes meth use can cause those gaps in memories and things like that. That's not consistent with what we saw. We saw, to whatever extent the defendant used methamphetamine leading up to the offense. First of all, I don't know if we know what impact that had. And second of all, I don't know how it alleviates the defendant's responsibility or alleviates or gives rise to this notion that if we just have her be treated, that this wouldn't happen again if she was released into the community. I don't know if that nexus is there in this case. The third consideration they commented on is her present inability to fully process and acknowledge the act she engaged in, noting that it appears to come from her reviewing the reports generated by law enforcement. And again, the court's seen the interview. Her recollection and appreciation and understanding of what she did is evident from moment one. It's not from reviewing police reports. In many respects, she was leading the investigation. She knew more than Detective Groff and Detective Kemp. She's pointing out where everything is. She's providing accurate information that's corroborated by law enforcement on the scene. So this notion that this is somehow she's not fully processed what's going on, not only is that contrary to the evidence, the evidence we have is that she has processed and she simply does not care or appreciate what she did. And I think that's consistent with her comments in the PSI. It's consistent in her attitude and comments to law enforcement in both interviews. And again, I talked about this at length in talking about her remorse, but that gives significant pause. This was not a person who was psychologically unable to understand what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing. The jury agreed. And I think that's evident from the evidence in the case. So they also talk about, this denying the eligibility of release is to reject the possibility that there may be advancements in the future. And certainly that's potentially the case. We have no idea what Ms. Schabusiness will be like in 2040, 2050, 2060. But that's just one of the factors the courts can consider. To only think in those terms neglects the other criteria, neglects what she actually did in this case, the moral need for punishment, the need for deterrence, the need to protect the public from somebody doing that to another person in this community. So sure, rehabilitation is always an effort, and hopefully in a confined setting that can be accomplished to some extent. But that's not the only criteria. The only criteria is, can we correct this behavior? We also have to address what she actually did. And what she did, as I commented on, is significant. So really, in light of these circumstances, I think the department's recommendation for Ms. Schabusiness not to be eligible for release is appropriate. There are select cases where the legislature has determined that somebody in the court's discretion should not be eligible for release into the community again. And looking at the criteria and what the defendant did in this case, that's seemingly, this case seems to be kind of made for that sort of a result. What the legislature had in mind in crafting that possibility. So I believe the state should exercise the court should exercise its sentencing discretion and deny the eligibility for release. I think in that event, the sentences on the other counts are perhaps moot, but I think the PSI's recommendation for consecutive sentences on the other matters are appropriate. The sentencing after revocation, I'll just agree with the department. They recommend a year in jail. That's appropriate. But really, the preeminent case is obviously the case we're here for today. So that's all I have to say. There's credit, but we'll wait till the end. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Freilich.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. There's a lot of information that the court has to sift through and assess and analyze in this case. We've got the State of Wisconsin Department of Corrections pre-sentence investigation report. We also have the Forte Investigations independent PSI or pre-sentence investigation report. The court heard some testimony from family members, my client's cousin, her father, her grandmother, Dr. O'Donnell. What we have here is a horrific situation that happened. It can't be undone. Certainly the defense agrees that Taylor Denise Schabusiness has to be punished, but she's a young person. She's 25 years old. We can't undo what happened. What we know is that she's got family that supports her, that loves her, family in Texas, family in Ohio, extended family out there. They're all willing to try and help Taylor in whatever way they can. I think that my client, Your Honor, is not a throwaway. She's not a monster. She's certainly got problems, and over time, I think she can get control over her problems, get help, get rehabilitation, and also be punished. Clearly, when during the trial, the court saw the videotape footage, and when the Green Bay police detectives and officers came to the Eastman Avenue apartment and they made contact with Taylor out on the porch or on the steps, and then had her go back inside and sit down on the stairs, you could tell that she was high on drugs. And then eventually she was questioned and taken out to the police squad car for further questioning down at the Green Bay Police Department. But Taylor is not a throwaway. She's a human being. It's not an eye for an eye. I'm very impressed by Michael Therian, Shad Therian's father. He has a huge heart. I heard thinks that my client should be given an opportunity for a career.
Oh my God, what are they doing again?
Sometime in the future, as the court consider.
Oh,
Strongly consider. I have a client who is very young.
oh my gosh.
She has severe mental health problems.
Hold on, you guys.
She's got all kinds of mental health problems. They bore out records from the Rate of Health, from the Psychiatric Center, Ellen Home. She was under a civil commitment order in 2020.
What do I do?
This has issues
That's crazy. Hold on.
is a dual
There we go.
diagnosis client or patient. She has severe drug addiction issues.
Sorry, guys.
Marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamine. She apparently used it where she smoked it, where she used it through an IV intravenously. She's had problems for a long time with drugs, and that's an issue that really needs immediate attention by professionals. But this has never been about an eye for an eye. It's about fairness and justice. That my client should be punished, but she should also be given the opportunity to have a chance at the possibility of extended supervision or parole supervision sometime in the future after she gets help. This was one incident. I would argue that my client should not necessarily receive separate punishments, although we have convictions for 3 separate crimes, but it was an incident that occurred on one particular date, February 22nd of 2022, that the sentences should be concurrent. I would argue, Your Honor, and ask the court to consider the fact that this was likely a meth-fueled type of incident on the date of this tragedy. Shouldn't have happened, but it did happen. As far as looking at my client's life, she was born in Evanston, Illinois, Chicago area, moved with family to Green Bay, Wisconsin in 2008, went to school here in the community, went to high school here at Bayport, and then at some point she went to live in Texas with her grandparents, and then came back. I would argue that Taylor Schabusiness has redeeming social values. She's got the ability to do artwork. She's like soccer. She's like swimming. She's able to function independently. She's of average intelligence. She's got adequate written and verbal skills. She's a high school graduate from Cotulla High School in Texas, where she graduated in 2016. She was very good in different classes like social studies, physical education, science, economics. She's had different kinds of jobs as a cook for Big Beef City in 2012, 2013. She worked for Tour Temple in Texas in 2012. She worked for Saputo Cheese for about 3 years in 2017 to 2020, making about $21 an hour. She worked for Seek Staffing. When she was in Texas, she was apparently a maintenance supervisor where she made close to maybe $32 an hour. And she was certified for employment purposes in sanitation, forklift, driving, pallet jacking, safety locks, things of that sort. So she's able to do well. Those pictures, the family sent those pictures to me and I sent them to the court. I think the pictures show Taylor as a youngster, as a teenager, and as an adult, that she's got family that loves her, that supports her, that she is needed, and that she can form relationships and that she's capable of love. I think that Mr. Coronado, it's unfortunate of his situation, but he indicated to the pre-sentence writer that Taylor was a good person, kind-hearted, helped others out, that Taylor struggled after her mom, Marla, passed away in 2009. Taylor Schabusiness has suffered a significant amount of loss in her life. She lost her mom, Marla, in 2009, lost her brother, AJ, in 2022 from a motorcycle accident. We heard about the other losses from the cousin that testified. My client has a little boy, Mateo, who's age 1, and he's living with Juan and Esther Coronado in Temple, Texas. Those pictures speak 1,000 words. you could see that Taylor was delighted to have that baby come into her life. She kissed his head. She hugged the baby. She was happy with being around her grandparents. You could see that she was close with her brother AJ. All of these pictures show that she has had a good life where she got love and support from family. The tragedy, the fact that she has these losses, I don't think they were ever really addressed in counseling, but they eroded her mental health. And she had underlying problems besides all of that. My client certainly has a prior record, but it's not a long record. It's not a record where she assaults people and things of that sort. In looking at the independent pre-sentence investigation report from Paul Highland, those writers, Mr. Highland and Carrie Nitz, a PsyD licensed abuse counselor, indicates that Ms. Schabusiness' present inability to fully process and acknowledge the acts that she engaged in on February 22nd, 2022 exists. My client has these mental health problems. She's not getting treatment in the jail. She's not apparently on any medications and probably needs to be. She needs to see professionals to help her address some of these problems that she has. But with the proper treatment, with the proper medication, with the proper counseling, I think she can turn it around and do great things like her father, Arturo Coronado, testified to. She's not a lost cause, Your Honor. And the writers from Forte Investigations indicates at this time, presently, she's unable to psychologically fathom the crimes that she committed during her mental state on February 22nd of 2022. I agree with that. I don't think she is currently able to do that. She's going to need some treatment to process all of this. She was likely in a drug-induced delusional state at the time that that happened. And you even heard from Dr. James O'Donnell, who has a lot of experience dealing with methamphetamine use and chemicals and all of that. He indicated that chronic methamphetamine use causes cognitive impairment. It impairs cognition, can cause violent behavior, delusions, hallucinations, some cases psychosis, and a loss of touch with reality. And I would argue that that's likely what happened here. Likely would not have happened if my client was not using drugs with Mr. Therian. And it's my client's fault that this happened. And she has to be held accountable for that. But the court needs to take that into consideration here. And, the court has the discretion to do whatever the court feels is appropriate, taking into account all of the sentencing factors. And, punishing my client for decades like the Forte Investigation Independent PSI recommends is appropriate. She can be punished, but at some point, she should maybe be given the chance or the possibility of being on extended supervision. Because to deny the possibility of consideration for extended supervision in the future is to reject the possibility that there may be advancements in medicine, in psychology, in therapy. Maybe certain medications can fix some of the problems that she has. This is a very complicated case from a psychological, from a mental health standpoint, from a medical standpoint. And I would argue that my client should be given the opportunity to live her later years possibly outside of a confined setting. That it'll give her incentive to work hard in counseling, in therapy, participating in interviews with professionals to try and get a better understanding of the crime and the factors that contributed to it. And the possibility of parole, like Mr. Highland says, is not synonymous to the probability of parole. We're just asking the court to consider the possibility of her being afforded extended supervision or parole in the future, sometime in the future, after thousands of hours of therapy, after thousands of hours of counseling, after possibly taking prescribed medications, following the strict adherence to the medication regimen. My client apparently doesn't seem to have much.
Who here goes to a private college?
Violence in her life.
Holy
And
crap,
only after
again?
You see what I'm saying?
living
Who here goes to a private college?
Wow. Here we go again. Not my fault.
consider that, Your Honor. I'd ask that the sentences for counts 1, 2, and 3 all be concurrent to each other as recommended by Forte Investigations. And then I'd ask that you consider granting her consideration for extended supervision, make her complete a mental health assessment, comply with all recommendations, have her complete an AODA assessment and follow those recommendations, submit a DNA sample that's required under Wisconsin law.
What's going on?
I think that Forte Investigations did a very good job, a very detailed analysis of my client's problems. They did an alcohol and other psychoactive substance abuse evaluation and concluded and opined that my client has a history of using mind-altering substances, that her that she had some losses in her life, but that she also had some good parts of her life where she graduated from high school, had a baby, had jobs. It talks about the history of using substances. I took some notes on that. Well, it looks like she started using alcohol at age 6 and then continued onward with using marijuana, maybe at about 14 or so, and then got into stimulants, the methamphetamine, and started using methamphetamine at age 21. You know, using these drugs, the methamphetamine is probably one of the worst drugs you can possibly use, but it changes your brain. It changes the chemical composition of your brain. It causes all kinds of problems. She used marijuana for sometimes almost daily until she got to be 21. So you can understand maybe how her thinking and her judgment and her ability to process was completely impaired. And then you add another layer of the mental health problems. Of course, it's going to create hallucinations and auditory and visual hallucinations where she doesn't go to sleep, stays up all night, stays up for days on end. Certainly, she was under the influence of methamphetamines at the time of this offense. And she really hasn't had much in the way of treatment. I think treatment could help fix or reduce some of the problems that she has. I think she's open to it because she tried it in the past. And maybe she resorted to drugs, Your Honor, because that's what she saw her mother do as far as using alcohol or other things. And that's how they coped. You know, you learn from your parents. My client, apparently, according to Carrie Nitz, meets the criteria for substance misuse diagnosis. And all the different diagnoses are as follows: alcohol use disorder, cannabis use disorder, severe opioid use disorder, morphine, stimulant use disorder, methamphetamine, stimulant use disorder, crack cocaine. And that Carrie Nitz, NITZ, recommends that Ms. Schabusiness engage in treatment in a residential or inpatient service program where she can receive intensive services in a structured environment with a focus geared towards motivational and intervention strategies, as well as promotion of recovery and close monitoring of sobriety. It's recommended that these services be received duly with the services to address her significant mental health related issues. Providing these kinds of services and recommendations, it may be possible for Taylor Schabusiness to obtain control of her life, engage in meaningful relationships with others, and adequately address her substance misuse, and which could possibly change the direction of her life, benefiting her and the criminal justice system. I think it would be a tragedy to as an argument on behalf of my client, to give her life in prison without the possibility of parole. I think that the court should definitely take into account what the defense is recommending, what the independent pre-sentence investigation is recommending, and what Michael Thurian is recommending. I don't believe that my client is or wanted to do this or liked doing it. I think that she really wasn't able to completely understand or fathom what was going on. And when she was talking to detectives from the Green Bay Police Department, she was still hopped up on drugs. Her mind just wasn't thinking straight. How could it? But she was cooperative and told law enforcement what happened, gave them information that helped with their investigation. The fact that she was cooperative should be considered by the court. I calculated the jail credit, and she was arrested on February 22nd of 2022. So through today, I come up with 581 days of credit. I talked to my client. I don't know how many hits of meth she took. She indicated maybe it was 51 hits prior to the incident, but she took a lot of meth. I would argue and submit that the more you use, the worse it gets, especially if you have an underlying mental health problem. And the underlying mental health problem, as Dr. O'Donnell states, it was exacerbated by the heavy use of drugs. And, you know, the doctors and the state, it seems like, other than Dr. Lighton, who said that woman is psychotic, all the other doctors seem to think that, oh, my client does not have a mental health diagnosis or a mental health issue, and she does. That's why she was under a court order under the state of Wisconsin for civil commitment and a medication order. I would also argue that the fact that she used marijuana at a young age, 12, 13, 14, whatever it was, and whether it was daily or not, it likely changed the chemical composition of her brain and made her incapable of making rational decision. Her brain, her thought process, her ability to think rationally, all got eroded over time. And Your Honor, there are aggravating factors here, but there are also mitigating factors. And I would argue that Taylor Denise Schabusiness has many redeeming social qualities. She could turn her life around with counseling, with education, support of her family, support of her dad, support of her aunt and cousin that's in the courtroom, with medication management through a psychiatrist or psychologist or therapist or doctor, possibly getting back on injectable antipsychotic medications to treat her psychiatric and other problems, get into criminal thinking classes in the prison, maybe have a full psychiatric evaluation, and have a structured daily regimen. And this young lady, I've worked with her for quite a long time. I've seen a lot of positive things in her. And I think that part of it has been the drugs were just clouding everything, where she couldn't think straight and just wasn't making right decisions. But she can turn it around. She can make better decisions in the future with help. And I think there is a nexus between her substance abuse problem and mental health history. Certainly, my client needs punishment. The public needs to be protected, but also a factor is rehabilitation. And after time, after years, she should be given that opportunity to be released under supervision of the Department of Corrections. She'll need close rehabilitative control, but she deserves a chance. And I mean, the court has to weigh the scales of justice. We see them all the time. From testimony, from records, from arguments, from exhibits, and from what people say, what victims say, what Michael Thurian says. So I would ask that you consider these arguments on behalf of my client, Your Honor, as to the recommendations of forte investigations. I'd ask that you go along with that, ask that it all be concurrent, give her the credit that I already stated. And as to the revocation manner, defense would agree that she should receive 1 year in jail. We ask that it be concurrent to any other sentence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Schabusiness, this is your opportunity to address me. If there's anything on your mind you'd like to say before I pass sentence.
No, there isn't.
Okay. Very good. Well then, when passing sentence on cases like this, the court has to consider the factors set forth in State versus Gallion. So I have to consider the gravity of the offense, the character of the defendant, the need to protect the public, as well as other aggravating and mitigating circumstances, including rehabilitative needs and punishment and deterrence, and then craft a sentence in each case that's appropriate. In this case, when I consider the defendant's character, I can say that over the course of this case, I've learned a great deal about you, Ms. Schabusiness. First of all, you were born in Chicago, lived there until you were about age 10, 12 rather. You seem to have had a stable childhood. You were loved by your mother and your father and your brother. And unfortunately, your mother passed away when you were 12, your brother passed away in a vehicle accident, and your dad's incarcerated. But I'm confident that all three of them probably still love you very much. Her father's employment was transferred to Green Bay when she was about 12 years old, and hence began the contact Ms. Schabusiness had with this community. She attended Bayport High School. At about 16, she moved to Texas to live with her grandfather. She graduated from high school in Cotulla, Texas, and eventually came back to Green Bay because she missed her father and her brother, which again doesn't surprise me any because, as I've indicated, I think they both love her very much. She's worked in this community. I read over the pre-sentence investigation report that I ordered, and that outlines some work experience that she has, and I think that's a favorable character trait because, quite frankly, not everyone that lives in this community does work, and I think it indicates someone who wants to get out and support themselves and not make anybody else do it. But that reflects on character. She has a limited court record. Certainly, we have pretty much the entire extent of her criminal record in front of us here today, but it's a limited record that reflects on character. She's got a family who cares about her. And although sometimes I think people take that for granted, if you sit in this courtroom long enough, you'll realize that you should never take your family for granted because so many people come in sitting in that chair in an orange jumpsuit and have absolutely no one who will come in and say, I'm with her. And that takes a little bit of fortitude to come in and do that. And frankly, today she's got extended family that comes in and does that for her because her direct family are unable to do that for various reasons. And so I think that speaks to Ms. Schabusiness's character because there's people in this world who find value and worth in her that they're willing to come in and stand behind her. So I think that reflects on character. I'm cognizant of the fact that she began using drugs at a very young age, marijuana at age 12, cocaine at around 18, and methamphetamine at around 18 as well. And we've heard a lot of testimony about drug usage. I don't have any doubt that that has an impact on how people conduct their lives and behave from moment to moment. But quite frankly, as far as this incident and these events go, I think I've spoken to this already in prior hearings, but the fact of the matter is, when I watched the interview with law enforcement shortly after these events, I observed someone who was lucid, understanding what was going on, was tracking what was being asked of her, her answers were tracking. Everything seemed to be together at that moment. I don't really see the influence of drugs now. It doesn't mean it's not there, but I didn't see it in that interview, which is the most close proximity to the events of this night that we have is that interview. And right then and there, she seemed to be very lucid in what she was doing. But I don't doubt, but there's a long history of drug use, serious drug use. Methamphetamine is a plague in this community, and it seeped into this case as well. And it's something that we have to constantly fight against. It's not a battle that the system wins often, but we're making some headway, and every little step we take is perhaps one life that can be saved as a result of that drug coming into this community. But it's a big problem, and it is in this case. I've heard about Ms. Schabusiness's mental health history. I've read stacks and stacks of mental health records that have come in as recently as a few days ago. And I read them over, which allowed me to learn even more about Ms. Schabusiness and about her character and who she is as a person. I've heard about her son who lives in Texas, and I'm absolutely convinced that she loves her son. I'm going to say more about that in a minute, but that's a piece of who she is because she's a mom, and I think that is a title that is a precious title, and it's an important title. I'm also convinced that a person comes into this court with their life up to that point in time as a demonstration of their character. What kind of a person are they? What do they bring to the table as a member of the human community? Not just this community, but as a community, the human community as a whole. And there are some things about Ms. Schabusiness that speak well of that. I was a little bit put off by a statement that I read in the pre-sentence investigation report, frankly, from her father. He said on page 17 of that report, "I feel like the system could have helped Taylor and kind of failed her as well." And I reflected on that because it's difficult to understand who people refer to when they say the system fails people. Because you know what? It's not the job of the system to raise people's children. The system tries to do that. The system is not perfect. Like our fight against methamphetamine is not perfect, but we carry the fight on. People in our community get into the system, be that the court system or the system dealing with child protection. Really, I think what they're referring to, I don't know, but it seems to be the government. The government needs to come in and do more to take care of people who have gone astray. And I'm not sure that that's the case. Nonetheless, attempts are made. Attempts are being made in this courthouse every day. And to suggest that somehow it's the system that failed, it always surprises me a little bit when people come into court. They're coming in an orange jumpsuit and chains to suggest that it's the system that's failed my daughter. There's a certain irony in that. There really is. And it disturbed me when I read that piece. I'm not so sure it's really relevant to what should happen to Ms. Schabusiness, but it was relevant to what I heard from this witness here today, because I think the system does the best it can. It's imperfect, and it has very much to do with the amount of resources that the public wants to put into the system. And those resources are finite. But as I say, in this building, the system is doing everything it can to fight drug use with all of our treatment courts, with everything we do, to try to help push back the plague of drug use that's occurred and that we've heard so much about in this case. So I read that statement. I heard from Ms. Schabusiness's father. He is coming in here to talk about his daughter, who's also going through the system. And I couldn't help but think of everything I heard about Ms. Schabusiness's son, because it seems to be a cycle. It seems to be just a circle. It's coming around again. So that if he ever finds himself in the situation that his mother finds himself in, where she's the only one he's got left to come in and speak for him, again, I guess it's the system that's done something, but it all starts, frankly, at somebody's home.
Uh-oh. Here we go again. Look at, she looks like she's getting mad, you guys. Why is this going on? Come on, fix it, you guys. Not you guys. Oh boy. Hold on, let me see. Am I unmuted? Okay, making sure that I'm unmuted here. All right, it's still frozen over here. Hold on. Still frozen. This is crazy. How about other channels? Is it frozen for them? Hold on. I'm going to go look elsewhere here in a minute. Uh-oh, see, something happened. This poor little news station, they had problems during the trial too. So I'm looking elsewhere. Law and crime is still going? Really? I'm always nervous to even stream anything from them. What is going on here? That's crazy. Oh my God. That's a bunch of BS. Hold on. Taylor. Oh God, I don't want. I'll do it. I'll try it.
You can get a sense of it and a feel for it, but there's no really way to express the gravity of this offense. So the need to protect the public is an important factor the court needs to struggle with as well. And in light of what I've just indicated, I think it's plain that there is a need to protect the public in this case. As I said, this behavior seems so removed from the human community as to be unpredictable. It really is. And in a place where this kind of an offense, kind of actions, kind of a crime is possible, with no advanced warning signs, and absolutely anything's possible then. Where this kind of a thing is possible, absolutely anything is possible. And from that, the public needs protection. They really do. I've outlined, what I think are aggravating circumstances in this case. There are mitigating circumstances, as I've said. There's things about Miss Schabusiness regarding her upbringing and what brought her here, the struggles she's had with some mental health issues, and struggling perhaps in the context of those issues with a family who wasn't always as present as they could have been. Those are mitigating sets of circumstances. But all of those things weigh into what this court has to address. So when I consider what is an appropriate sentence, first, I think the law requires that I at least look at least some of these cases. I take a look at probationary sentences. Those aren't appropriate. They would diminish the severity of the offense. But at this time, given all the factors that I have to consider, it's the decision of this court and the judgment of the law that Ms. Schabusiness be sentenced as follows. As to in 22 CF 363, count one, that's the first degree intentional homicide as a repeater. It's a Class A felony. Going to impose life imprisonment without the possibility of extended supervision. I believe that's appropriate in light of the findings that I've already made. As far as count two, mutilation of a corpse as a repeater, a Class F felony, I'm going to adopt the recommendation of the pre-sentence investigation writer. 7.5 years of initial confinement followed by 4 years of extended supervision. That'll be consecutive to count one. As far as count three, third degree sexual assault as a repeater, Class G felony. I'm going to impose 3 years of initial confinement followed by 4 years of extended supervision. That will be consecutive to count two and count one. As far as the revocation cases, I'm going to impose 1 year of incarceration on each of those counts. Those will run concurrent to the other offenses. I've reviewed, as I've indicated, reviewed both of the pre-sentence investigation reports. There's certainly valuable things in them. I'm going to, as conditions of supervision, I'm going to require no contact with the victim's family, maintain absolute sobriety, complete SOT assessment and treatment follow-through, obtain and maintain full-time employment. To the extent there's ever supervision, GPS monitoring. I'm going to require an AODA assessment and follow-through, psychological evaluation and follow-through. The recommendations that are contained in the pre-sentence investigation report submitted by the defense indicates or suggests that there be services engaged in for substance abuse and other mental health issues. That's a reasonable suggestion. And I think I've encompassed it in the recommendations that I've made, which is there needs to be a compass evaluation and follow through with any treatment recommendations that are proposed. But again, an AODA assessment and follow through and psychological evaluation so that Ms. Schabusiness can get the help that she needs while she serves the sentence. I'm going to order court costs. It's $538 per count. That's a total of $1,614. That'll be the order of the court. I do need to indicate, as I'm required to at sentencing, that now that Ms. Schabusiness is convicted of a felony, she'll lose her right to vote until it's given back to her by the governor or by state law, and she may not possess a firearm or wear body armor. Any other record you'd like me to make, Mr. Saunders?
No.
Mr. Freilich, any other record?
Your Honor, the 581 days credit for time served.
Any objection to that?
No, and there's an additional 60 days on the revocation case.
No objection to that.
581 days credit on the first case, and then on the revocation cases, 60 days credit. And that'll be the order of the court. Then, Mr. Freilich, you can go over your client's appeal rights with her.
Yes, I will.
And with that, then, this matter is now concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I thought for sure that she was going to act up. Look at her cousin. She probably just wants to look at her one more time. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. Okay. Yeah, it was a no-brainer. I would have been shocked otherwise. I couldn't handle jail. There's no way. Oh. Oh boy. Okay. So there you have it, people. That was longer than I thought it was going to be. Yikes. Okay, everybody, I am hungry and I have to drive to go get something to eat. And later on tonight, I'm doing another live because there is 2 new homicides in Missouri. And I think one, they found remains in a field. I don't understand all this. Well, I'll never understand how this stuff can happen. So thank you for being here. And check out my other YouTube channel. Yeah, because I got big things coming. So I want to get my sub count up. Thank you, Karen.